Transformation Tuesday is here, Chip. I didn't know we had a fancy name for when athletes could start getting paid, at least for this whole, the House settlement, the revenue sharing. $20.5 million. We did not go from we did not take baby steps here. This is we're jumping in with both feet, and these bank accounts, I don't know when the money hits, but this is going to be transformative for college sports and the athletes in a lot of these sports that are getting this money.
Yeah, that's just the name I came up with, Transformation Tuesday. It's not official, but it should be, right?
Should be. I like it.
I should get royalties, part of this $20.5 million.
You should.
It is, yes. I mean, today is July 1st, Tuesday, July 1st, and college sports are officially professional today.
Very much.
Because as of today, schools can start distributing checks to their athletes for the revenue sharing, the $20.5 million. And so when I talked to Mark Coyle, the Gopher Athletic Director, last week, he wasn't sure the exact payment plan for their athletes, but the Gopher athletes who are getting them are going to get checks once a month. And he did confirm for the first time publicly. We've reported it several times from sources that told me, but the 5 teams on campus that are going to be part of the revenue sharing are football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and men's hockey. He did reveal also for the first time that they're adding 11 scholarships, 6 on the women's side, and I'll mess it up off the top of my head, but I know volleyball, women's basketball, soccer. I forgot the other one.
You wrote volleyball gets 2, hockey gets 1, gymnastics gets 1, and softball and soccer each get 1.
Softball. Okay, yeah. So not women's basketball. So they're and that money, and then football is getting 5.
Right.
For 11, and that money, part of the House versus NCAA settlement rules is schools can create new scholarships up to the cost of those scholarships, $2.5 million. And that is subtracted from the $20.5 million that they can distribute. So, Mark wouldn't decline to say what percentage of that $20.5 million that each team is going to get. Obviously, citing competitive reasons, because these schools talk and they sort of have a general idea of what each school is going to give and to what teams, but. It is fair to say football is going to get 75%.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty
vast
standard.
Majority. Yeah,
I think that's. And he did say the lion's share of that money is going to go to 4 programs. Football is going to get around 75%. Men's basketball, women's basketball, and volleyball. Now they have opted to also include men's hockey because that's a revenue sport, but their belief is that other programs might, for the 5th school, might include lacrosse or
baseball,
something else, baseball or something else. Right. Yeah, if you're in the South, probably baseball. Right. Just kind of depending on how they want to do it. But in the Big Ten, at least, they think just specifically Big Ten, they think those 4 programs are going to get the lion's share of the $20.5 million.
So how this? We don't know how this is going to go. This is brand new, but it feels like it opens up a certain can of worms in terms of who's getting what within the department, how people feel about that, even if it's kind of uniform across sports. Like someone who's in a fairly successful but not top tier revenue generating sport might look across at this and say, well, how come we're not in this, or how come we're not getting as much as them? The other thing, like how do you keep everybody happy even when you're distributing $20 million? It feels like it's a hard, maybe a good problem to have, because you're going to be competitive, and it sounds like they feel like they're in a good spot relative to other programs, other schools. But this has the potential to get some personality clashes and some we want this and why aren't we getting it?
Yeah, I asked Mark Cole that, like, how do because they have 22 sports, and how the other 17 head coaches feel about not being part of revenue sharing, and he said that, well, one, this is a business now, and they have to. He said that they have to be relevant in those 5 sports. He said it doesn't mean I don't care about the other ones. It doesn't mean we don't want to be relevant in those. But in today's economic model, they have to be relevant in those 5 sports. And by relevant, he used the example of in the newspaper above the fold. That's what he said. I think you can also say for basketball, you need to be in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
That's part of being relevant, being in the NCAA tournament. But he said, are there coaches here that are frustrated with me? He said, I'm sure there are. The deal that he made with them was after a year, because I think they'll have a better sense. And I'm still trying to figure out if we will be able to get through, public records,
Right.
how much each of these contracts are, but they think they'll have a better sense of what schools are giving their programs. And he's told his coaches that, for example, if they find out that 14 of the 18 Big Ten schools are revenue sharing with women's soccer, they'll adjust, they'll fix that.
Yeah.
But for now, these are the 5 that he feels like it needs to be earmarked for. And I think they look at it and they just say, we don't think other programs are going to revenue share with baseball in the Big Ten. We don't think they're going to revenue share with wrestling in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They could be wrong, but this is the gamble or this is the calculus that they've come up with, that these are the programs they feel like need that revenue share. So, but are there, and let's not forget that there's 2 different buckets. Now you have revenue share to go along with NIL. NIL still available to every athlete on campus, and that's how athletes in those other sports can still earn revenue. But for now, the revenue share, they feel like these 5 programs are the ones that need or are the best bets to get that money.
Are we any closer to figuring out how you just suddenly pay for $20.5 million a year? I mean, some of it's obviously coming from increased media rights, like the Big Ten media rights is going up. Now there's got to be some cuts along the way too, though, if you're trying to, nip and tuck your way to a pretty significant portion of their budget. Like, what percent of their budget is this? It's like probably more than 10% of their whole budget, right?
For sure, because I think they were at 120, or were they at 150 last year?
They were at 150 last year, I think, somewhere around there. So, more than 10% of their budget.
I asked him because 2020 when they cut the 3 sports.
Right after COVID, yeah.
Yeah, right after COVID, golf, tennis, and indoor track. He said that is not part of the plan right now. He said he doesn't want to go through that again. He did say that the savings in expenses that they had they would have still funded those programs. They've used that money set aside, and that helps go toward. But it sounds like there's all kinds of different buckets. They go before the Board of Regents and present their budget I think next week. So we'll get a better sense. But I think there's a student fee that a lot of that's going to be new, that a lot of schools are turning to help supplement or help pay for this. He did say that they've been operating pretty thin in terms of, I know they've had a couple senior administrators leave. They haven't filled those positions. He said that they asked head coaches to try to schedule non-conference more regionally and not travel nationally. So I think it hasn't been one bucket that this is going to come out of. I think they're trying a lot of different ways to come up with it, but it's a stretch, and it's a stretch for everybody because basically, a lot of these schools spend what they take in, and it's just we can debate and talk about, is it obsessive, the administration costs and the having all these different support staff and coaches and all those things. Yes, but that's the arm race that they put themselves in, and now all of a sudden they have a $20.5 million cost. Guess what? It only increases every year. So this is not a one-time thing. This is an every year thing that they have to deal with. So, but I think it's been a little bit of different factors that have contributed to try to get to that number.
Yeah, that's interesting because you're right. It's not just that some of the maybe non-revenue programs aren't getting this money. They're going to be asked to, like you said, change how they operate a little bit. I think operate even leaner. Don't travel too far. Don't do this. Don't do that.
Make it more regional. Yeah.
Make it more regional, which, again, that's probably fine to a certain degree, but it probably lowers the kind of pedigree of your program, makes it harder to recruit, things like that. So I'll be interested to see what the bigger picture impact of this all is, and it's just still very new. We don't know that. Maybe final thing on this before we talk a little Timberwolves. What's your take on all this? Like, how do you feel about all this? Because you've been embedded in college sports for so long. Like, this is a massive change. Like I said, we did not tiptoe into this. Like NIL was a little bit of tiptoeing into this, but this is like all of a sudden you're going from like, back in the day you couldn't give anybody anything, and now you can give them $20.5 million this year.
We were laughing about this, and this wasn't too long ago, Mike, that it was a NCAA rule violation for teams to put cream cheese on bagels.
I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, after a workout in the morning, you could give the athletes a bagel, but if you put cream cheese on it, that was an extra benefit. That's the NCAA violation, and that's not a joke. That's I wrote a column about this a month ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this new era of college sports to ruin my love of college sports, and I'm determined not to let it.
Yeah.
I tell myself that I fell in love with college sports before I even knew if athletes got paid or not. I had no idea, if Tennessee players were getting paid. Probably were, like everybody now it's out in the open. But I don't want it to, take away what I love most about like a football weekend.
Sure.
Being on campus, the rivalries, traditions, all the pomp and circumstance. Like when the ball kicks off, I don't think I'll be thinking about this. I'll probably complain about.
That's fair, right?
But it's different. I mean, it's the one thing I do think this will do, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. I think now that there's revenue sharing and opportunities to really pay athletes beyond the NIL, which that got way out of control, and used for the wrong purposes, but I wonder if this does slow down the transfer portal a little. That now, schools can legally give contracts to, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe some athletes will make millions. We know they are. I don't know if there's anyone on the Gophers campus in that position, but I got to imagine Corey Parrish is making quite a bit of money.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, it's not divided equally between all the players.
No,
and it's you can definitely you pick and choose. This is just like any team. You pick and choose like your star athletes, and that's again where I wonder like if he's going to start looking at each other like, hey, who's making this? Who's making that?
You know what? I think the athletes understand because NIL has been part of their lives, and some guys are making,
and it works the same way.
Are making more. It's not that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: it might be incentive to try to improve, and so you get that bigger contract.
But this is your school making a choice, not NIL telling you how much you're making. So that piece of it is that
there
piece
could be
I
some
wonder
jealousy.
about. Yeah, there's going to be some jealousy. Absolutely,
there could be some particularly if you're outperforming someone who is making more. I mean, that could be part of the deal too. But it's definitely a change. But I really hope I still love college football as much as I've always loved it.
Does this? I mean, here's another question. Maybe this is more of a high school and preps question, but like, what does this do now? Like, there was already this kind of like arms race and this like kind of pie in the sky, all this training that goes on for young athletes, like chasing the scholarship and the glory.
Sure.
Now you're chasing not just that, but if you're the best of the best in one of these sports, you're getting paid, by the time you get to college, and you might not be a pro athlete, even if you're really good in college, but you're still going to you could still potentially make hundreds of thousands of dollars during your college career just for being a college athlete on top of getting the education.
Well, I used to think that one of the first couple of questions that athletes would ask during recruiting is like, how fast can I play? How fast can I get on the field, the court, the ice, whatever? I got to imagine one of the first ones now is how much can I make?
Yeah.
I mean, they may not admit that publicly, but that's part of the recruiting process. Hey, this is what this is what's available. This is there. So, and here's the thing. With the revenue sharing, there's a cap. Every school has a cap, $20.5 million now. It's up to you, whatever you spend. The Gophers, if they wanted, can outspend Alabama. They can, or spend as much as Alabama,
Right.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, whatever.
Right.
They could say, we're
Right.
going to give 100% of this to football. That's your choice.
Right.
They won't do it. That's your
No,
choice,
no,
though.
no. Right.
They
Yeah.
can spend it however they want. So I don't know if that levels the playing field at all, but I think it closes the gap on some schools where
Oh, I think it does too.
now those other schools that, you know, the really rich schools are going to
They have-
supplement it with NIL. They have a
Right.
strong NIL,
Right.
and you can make a lot, you know, in that form. But this is schools prioritizing how they want to prioritize this
Yes.
$20 million, and they can spend
Yes.
it. And so, if there's a quarterback that they want to go sign for $2 million, have at it.
Yes.
You know, that
Yep.
possibility is there.
Yeah. Everybody's boat rises the same amount. Not to,
Right.
I didn't realize I was making a boat pun when I did
That's
that.
right.
But yeah, everybody's. But my point though is like, if you're a parent of an 8-year-old right now, and you're like, you know, I think my son or daughter's pretty good. And if before the dream was, hey, get to college, you know, maybe get a scholarship, maybe go pro someday,
Get your tuition paid for.
yeah, now it's like, geez, like you could walk out of college being a millionaire. I mean, honestly,
Yes.
you could. And this, I just wonder what the trickle down effect to the prep ranks will be ultimately once parents realize what is now at stake at the highest level of college sports.
Well, we always talk about that, and you saw it in youth sports. There's that ambition, or whatever you want to call it. That hey, let's go to this camp, let's do this, let's develop, let's play year round, let's specialize because there's scholarship money. It's not just scholarship anymore.
That's what I'm saying.
There's NIL and there's revenue sharing.
Yes.
So it's I again, as much as we as observers, we hope it doesn't take the enjoyment out of it. I hope it doesn't for youth sports and kids that the pressure to get, you know, in that situation. I'm sure it will. I'm sure there's, you know, there's always competition and pressure, but this is the world we live in. You know, I tell people that complain about it, it's like, we can complain all day long, but it's not changing. It's not going backwards.
No.
I mean, this is the new reality, and this is how it's going to be. So I know people say, well, I'm never watching, and that's their prerogative, but this is the world. This is how college sports. It's professional. It's not college sports. It's professional sports.
Yes.